You're listening to episode 137, Lauren's Story, a son with Aicardi-Goutieres Syndrome, AGS. Hello, my friends. I hope that you're doing well. I am here on a Monday morning with my kids at school, and it feels so good. I'm not going to lie. They have been in school for about 4 days now. I'm down in South Austin and near a town called Dripping Springs, and we have a little school in our neighborhood, and finally, my kids are in the same place, so there's one drop-off for us, and there's something about that just feels like a win. Such a win to have my kids in one school, in one place, and the fact that I am at home right now talking with you, I'm just so grateful. I'm also grateful because I get to introduce you to Lauren today. Man, I have just been not okay when I'm recording these podcast episodes. And the reason for that is these parents, specifically Lauren, who I'm getting to chat with, are just changing my perspective. And every time I talk with another parent, I'm just growing and growing, not only as a child life specialist, but just as a human in the world. When Lauren wrote to me, one of the things she said is that she thought, first of all, that raising a child with any kind of special needs just wasn't going to happen to her, right? It's kind of one of those things that you're just like, this won't happen to me. And then it does. And then her misconception was that she thought that raising a child who had a lot of medical and special needs was just going to be sad all the time. And through a lot of work on herself and in her life and her relationships, she found a real opportunity in a life coach that kind of changed the trajectory of her life for her, not only in her relationships with her kids and her family and herself, but just moving forward, totally switched gears. So I'm so excited to share my story with Lauren with you, and I'm so grateful that you're here today. And every single time you tune in to listen to another parent's story who so bravely shares so that others can feel less alone in their time. So I'm glad you're here. I'm Katie, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. Okay, really quick before we jump into the conversation. If you are a child life specialist and you are certified and you like cool people and you like to get really affordable PDUs and you love to share information and resources because you don't want to reinvent the wheel, then you need to come join us in the Child Life Circle community. We are child life specialists who not only chat on forums and share information, but we get really cool webinars from community organizations and also access to PDUs. So it is $14.99 a month until the end of October. So come in and join us, be a founding member, get to know us. We hope to see you. You can visit childlifeoncall.com, click on Child Life Circle to learn more information, including a letter to give to your employer to see if they can pay for your memberships. So, okay, join us there and we hope to see you.
All right, I am Lauren Lowry. I am a mom from Oklahoma. Me and my husband, we live kind of on a small ranch. My husband trains horses. We have cattle. We have 2 kids. I have Leo. He is 6 years old, and then I have Kimber, who actually adopted last year, and she is 5.
Oh my goodness, so you got your boy and your girl and your horses, and I love all that. So I'm just curious about being a ranch family now. Have you always been like a country girl, and so you knew you would enjoy that kind of in your adult life?
Yes, I grew up in a very similar kind of life. So it was very natural. It's something I always wanted for my future. It's something I always wanted for my family. So it worked very well for what my husband does. I think that may be why we ended up getting married. Not the whole reason.
I mean, we'll make it count. That's definitely a part.
Yep.
You have to find somebody who fits the lifestyle you want.
Absolutely.
Well, tell us a little bit about the time leading up to finding out something was different with your son, and what that process was like for you.
Yeah. So when Leo was born, we didn't know anything was wrong. We had a very normal pregnancy, and he was born a few weeks early. I think I was 36 weeks along. So we thought everything was going to be fine. Labor didn't go so great, ended up having to have a C-section. And we knew, I would say maybe that next day, we kind of just had a gut feeling that something wasn't right. We had a lot of feeding issues. He had kind of some odd movements, kind of jerking movements where his arms would go out. And, the doctors reassured us, we're just new parents. You're just worried. There's nothing wrong. There was just some signs. There was some odd blood work results. They're like, that's kind of weird, or, this, but it's no big deal. They kept telling us that, even though and we were in the hospital for about a week after giving birth, just because of just weird little things here and there. And eventually, he couldn't keep his temperature up. That's what it was. And they eventually sent us home. And one of the nurses, actually, I hope I don't get anyone in trouble. I don't think I will. But
No.
she actually told us, as we were kind of getting ready to leave, she goes, I'm not supposed to say anything. This is not my place. But if I was you, I would leave here and go to the children's hospital immediately. She apparently agreed with us that something just wasn't right. So we did that. We went from one hospital to the next. We did request a transfer. They denied it. So we just pretty much got in the car and went to the next hospital, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from where we live. And immediately they're like, absolutely, there's something not right. And things just kind of snowballed from there.
Oh my gosh. Do you like simultaneously want to hug that nurse and then like relief, but also worry and despair and like all of those things that go into that nurse validating you? What do you think you would have gone to the hospital that soon had she not said something?
Maybe not that soon, but I think it would have been, pretty soon, at least within a few weeks. So.
Tell us a little bit about getting to that next hospital and what you discovered there and how you were feeling having just gone through a C-section.
Yeah, I felt awful. Physically, emotionally. We were new parents, so you add all of that on top of it all. Feeding issues. So I was pumping, trying to do that every 2 hours because he would not latch. We had all those issues. So it was all of the new mom stuff plus the worry of what's going on. And honestly, I cannot remember what was going on at the hospital, why they admitted us so quickly. It's kind of all very much a blur, right? You kind of almost block out some of those things. But we were at that hospital for several weeks, and we weren't in the NICU because he was not born there. He was not premature. He was not anything like that. It was really just like a hospital stay of trying to figure out what was going on. So it was a lot of, several times a day blood work. And it was really hard to see them, poke his heel several times a day to get that blood. And just, this tiny little newborn baby, he was so small. And just, it was hard. It was very stressful. And it was a really hard time.
Yeah, I can imagine just like the trauma your body has gone through, the shock to the system about this news, this unknown environment that you've never been in before. And it reminds me a lot. I've been a NICU child life specialist before, and I get to see those moms like right or soon after delivery, and they try so hard to be present, but it sometimes it's physically and mentally impossible to really soak it in and understand. I'd say it's more often than not, it's almost impossible to try to figure out what's going on and navigate that and get your wits about you.
Yeah, because we were adding the waking up every 2 hours consistently throughout the night, plus
Oh gosh,
the
yeah.
doctor's diagnosis coming in through the night. And looking back, I don't know why. Me and my husband never left. I would not ever tell somebody to just live in the hospital like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we didn't know. We didn't know we weren't going to leave him. We weren't going to leave our baby, even
Well,
for
yeah,
just a minute.
you
So we
hear
just
that kind
lived in
of,
that room.
it's kind of that societal pressure when some people are like,
Yeah.
I wasn't going to leave. And you're like, well, that's great for you, but it may be different for somebody else. And that's totally normal.
Yeah. And the same with the trying to pump and
Mm.
trying to do all of that. It was very much driven by that societal pressure to do the right thing. And I had this idea that that was what was going to save him. And
Yeah.
very much like it was very, very like a survival thing.
Yeah.
But that was, all these issues, the least I could do. It's the only thing I can do.
I know.
And what I thought was a very good thing I was doing, looking back, I can see now that it was very, very much adding to the stress and the hardness of it all.
Wow. I think you've just given a lot of parents permission
Yeah.
to just maybe rethink or put a pause on that, because I think a lot of us as moms especially kind of have that maybe instinct to do whatever we can. But looking back, you can say maybe the do whatever we can is get 8 hours of sleep. And so you
Yes,
can
I would have.
contribute during the day.
Yes, I would have shown up so much better had I not tried to, meet that idea that I thought I needed to meet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for bringing that up. I think that's really important. And, for healthcare workers to hear too, it's like, are we pushing this too hard? Are we asking? And maybe the intention is not to put pressure, but maybe it is.
Yeah.
And maybe we should be asking about sleep as much as we're asking about pumped breast milk on
Yes.
behalf of the mom.
Yes.
So you were
Um,
in the New Children's Hospital and running tests and all that blood work. And what did you guys find out, and what eventually, happened while you were there, and how did you get home?
yeah. So we found out a lot of nothing.
Mhm.
It was a lot. It opened up more questions than answers. The more tests we did, the more questions everybody had of what is this? Because there was just some odd things. He had a brain bleed, and they're like, "Well, are you sure you didn't have something happen whenever you're pregnant?" I was like, "No, nothing that I know of. Are you sure you weren't sick in your pregnancy?" I was like, "Nope, never did get sick." And they asked all kinds of things. Well, maybe you had your dates wrong, because he's presenting like he is 30 weeks versus 36 weeks. Like, you must have your dates wrong. I was like, nope. I know I'm like clockwork. So it just brought up more questions. I had a brain bleed, which was odd. He had just very odd blood work that would literally change from day to day. His temperature was all over the place. One minute he would have a fever, the next minute he couldn't keep his temperature up, literally within a 10-minute span. So it was like he was just going haywire, this little tiny baby. And he was very, very fussy, just always cried. He had to be held at all times, or he would just scream and cry. So they did several tests. I think they ended up doing an MRI, and they saw that the myelination, which is the white matter of his brain, like the myelin sheath, it coats each thing, in his brain, little neuron pathways. They found that wasn't quite formed where it should be, which is normal for a preemie baby. Maybe he was younger than they thought, but we knew that our dates weren't wrong. So they just started doing some genetic testing for all different things, and they were very much stumped. I think they eventually just sent us home and said, well, maybe he'll grow out of it. Maybe it's nothing. And I even remember one of the physicians at the hospital, when she was telling us this, that, the myelin is not formed as it should be. I mean, she was crying as she was telling us this. It's the only time I've ever seen a doctor cry. And I think it was really important that she let herself feel that, because it wasn't, a lot of people were just telling us, oh, he'll grow out of it. He'll grow out of it. It'll be okay. And while hope is not a bad thing, hope is not a bad thing at all, but she was real with us. And she allowed us to feel those emotions that, yes, you were right. Something's not right here. Something is wrong. So, yeah.
Do you think that her crying, I just wonder, did that allow you to feel safer, or did you feel more scared, or how did you guys take that?
You would think that we would feel more scared, but we felt safer.
Mm.
It was, I mean, what she was telling us was awful.
Right.
Of course, we had that fear that was added there, but it made us feel safe because we almost felt like we were just almost, you get the idea of like, are we making this up? But we have
Right.
all these tests that say we aren't making this up, but everybody's telling us that everything's, oh, it'll be okay. It's like, well, it's not okay. And it's okay that it's not okay.
Mm. Oh my
It's
goodness.
okay to fall apart.
Yeah, it's, when you get that kind of news, like you're grasping for a human to human connection in that moment, not necessarily text from a medical book.
Absolutely.
And when somebody gives you that, it can be really validating. You don't want them to be breaking down, but that human component it can be a game changer.
Yes, and it was. It absolutely was.
So your quote of, so we found out nothing just cracks me up because it's so true and so relatable. When you guys got home, with more questions than you got there with, what was life like for you, and how did you handle, this traumatic entry into motherhood, and what worked for you and what didn't?
Yeah. So when we got home, and even before we got home, really, we were in complete survival mode. We were just trying to survive. I mean, there was really no thought process behind anything. It was just try to make it through the end of the day. We were living in that fight, flight, or freeze response, essentially.
Mm.
And I even, I had to go back to work, and we had no idea how to take care of ourselves. We had no idea the importance of taking care of ourselves. No idea. We were actually sleeping in shifts because, again, someone had to hold Leo at all times.
Wow.
Or he would just cry. It was so awful. It's actually really common. We did get a diagnosis later. I can go into that in a minute. But it is very common in his diagnosis for the first 2 years. It is just incredible, just pain and, constant irritability. So my husband would, I would sleep from 9 to 3, and my husband is amazing. Like I won the lottery over here because he would always let me sleep past what I was supposed to, so that he would stay up with Leo. And yes, but then he would, wake me up, and we would switch, and he would get a couple hours of sleep, where I got several hours of sleep sometimes. But yeah.
It's like, that's the kind of dad you want for Leo. Like, you picked a good one.
I did. Yeah. So it was a lot because I was working, and we were just trying to figure out what was going on still. Of course, I would lay awake when I was supposed to be sleeping. I would just lay awake and scroll on the internet for all kinds of bad things, trying to figure out what it was, trying to play doctor, trying to diagnose my own child.
Yeah.
And it was this constant story of what could be wrong, and sometimes I would swear, I know what it is, and I would look at all of the symptoms of it, and I'm like, no, that's not it.
Yeah.
I would even compare it to his lab work. I mean, it became almost like an obsession, trying to self-diagnose my child.
Oh, gosh.
And we were in and out of the hospital. I mean, we had hospital stays, it seemed like every month. We would have to end up back in the hospital for some weird thing again. It was kind of off and on of when Leo would just stop eating. He wasn't gaining any weight. I think at 6 months old, he weighed 10 pounds. Mm. So he's very tiny, very failure to thrive. So, of course, you have the guilt that comes with that. What am I doing wrong? Leading that back to, it's because I'm not pumping enough. I'm not eating.
The breast milk isn't this or enough. Yeah.
The breast milk, right, yes. So I had all that guilt that I was adding onto myself about it all. And finally, on one of those hospital stays, Leo just stopped eating. I mean, he just completely would not take a bottle at all. And one of the hospital stays, they did a swallow study. I think he was about 6 months old, actually. And they determined that, oh, yep, he's aspirating everything that's going directly into his lungs.
Oh.
Here's your ticket to the hospital stay. Welcome.
Oh
Here's an
my
NG tube.
gosh.
So, yes. And, you know, you never think about like, oh, the last time I'll ever feed my child a bottle, or last time I'll ever feed my child, period, by mouth.
Yeah. Oh.
But that's something that we definitely went through.
Oh my gosh. Poor buddy. Like, so much to endure and what you guys have gone through. Goodness. We'll be right back. If you have ever wondered where you could get those cloth dolls that Child Life Specialists use with kids for medical education or sending home to siblings or to draw on for therapeutic activities, then you don't have to wonder any longer, because our friends at Smile Makers have decided to now sell these amazing cloth dolls for a very affordable price. I know that when I was in the hospital, I would have to rely on a volunteer network to then give us the dolls, which was really nice, but I had to wait a lot of times. Like, I would need a doll now and I wasn't able to get it. So this is a great place to be able to go get your procedure dolls at smilemakers.com. And y'all, they have 3 different skin tones for these cloth procedure dolls. In addition, you can actually buy a procedure doll prep bundle that comes with fabric markers. This is a fabulous way to do your medical teaching, to help siblings feel involved, to get kids creative, to do a lot of teaching about different diagnoses. And so go to smilemakers.com so you can get your cloth dolls as soon as possible before they run out. And when you go to that checkout to get your cloth dolls, also type in OnCall20 and you will get 20% off your entire order. So not just the cloth dolls. So if you get a bundle for Child Life Specialists, if you get a piece of furniture, if you get one of their really cool toys and prizes, or you order a large sticker order from them, OnCall20 gets you 20% off your whole order. That's smilemakers.com, code OnCall20 to get 20% off. So you got the swallow study answer, your ticket to hospital. I like how you explain that too. I keep coming back to like, it seems like the medical team keeps saying like, are you sure you don't have this right? Are you sure you don't have that right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I'm mom. Like, I know more about the booger that has been in his nose for 2 days than,
Exactly.
you know, like, I'm not getting this wrong.
Exactly.
So,
And they tested me for drug use even, which I'm more than happy. I was like, sure. I mean, I absolutely have not, I've not partaken anything like that. But they were just so sure that it was on us, it seemed like, because they could not figure out what it was. But they were doing their jobs. I'm not angry about it. They were doing their jobs.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
I'm like, my mouth is open.
Like,
wow.
Yeah. I've had to do a lot of work to get to that point of they were doing their jobs, because I would hope that they would question everything for my child.
Sure.
So, but yeah, there was a lot of anger around that.
Yeah. Okay. I like where you got. Okay. Maybe I'll get there, after listening to your story a few times, but I'm still mad.
Yeah. It took several years. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
Hard work.
So how did you guys finally get answers? And, you've really shifted your whole, probably, this is maybe dramatic, but kind of your whole life's work, right? And who you have become into now. And how did you guys move from this like constant, I have no idea, there's no plan, we're just like putting out fires all the time, to thriving, with how your family is?
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. Surviving to thriving. I mean, but so in that hospital stay where we did get the G tube placed, because the NG tube, he did not, it didn't work. It made him gag and everything. So we had to have the G tube pretty much immediately placed. And actually in that hospital stay, we were there for several weeks again. And they actually came to us and said, hey, we need to do a full, I believe it's called a genome sequencing. Someone's in genetics. I apologize if that's not the correct term, but a full sequencing test where they look at everything. And said usually there is right now there's a 2-year wait list for this in Oklahoma, because it's a rural area out here, specialists and things like that are not abundant in healthcare, to say it nicely. So 2-year wait list, and I said, but since you're in the hospital, we can get this done immediately.
Oh.
Take 3 months to get the results, but you can pretty much, fast track this if you want to have it done. And they even worked with our insurance, got it completely covered, which was amazing. Because I think I remember them saying it was about a $20,000 test.
Yeah, that sounds right, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy,
It's like
absolutely crazy.
Monopoly money.
And they fought exactly. They fought so hard for us.
Oh, wow.
And they got it covered. They got this test done. I don't know who was looking out for us on that hospital stay, but definitely somebody was. Or somebody was just so mad that they couldn't figure it out. They're like, we're going to figure this one out.
Yeah.
Because we had a lot of the same doctors. We became frequent flyers. We knew quite a few of the people at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they drew, me and my husband's blood as well as Leo's, sent it off, and we waited for 3 months. And we're home by then, of course. We got the call. It was actually just about a week before Christmas. And I worked in jewelry and retail jewelry at the time. So it's a very, very busy time of year for me. And so I got the call, and they're like, we need you to come in tomorrow. And I remember it was a complete snowstorm. It was icy out. And I was like, nothing is going to stop us. We have to go to this genetics appointment. They told us just leave Leo at home. He's not, don't need to bring him to it. So, yeah, we drove there, and they put us in a tiny little room. There was the geneticist sitting across from us, and she handed us what looked like a paper printed off of Google and said, your child has Aicardi-Goutieres Syndrome, and there's about 400 cases known worldwide. Several types. He has the most severe. Just like a hammer. We talked about how that one physician, that one doctor that had so much emotion and allowed us to be, she didn't fall apart, but she was human. And here we were on the flip side of it, getting the worst news that anybody could ever hear. And it was just so cold. And it was painful. And I think that's always a trauma that someone's going to go through. That's definitely a form of trauma whenever you receive that diagnosis. And I don't think that's talked about enough. How traumatic that can be. And it gets burned into your memory. I think everybody has their diagnosis story, right? Of when, if they do get a diagnosis, how it's delivered to them, what's said to them, how heartbreaking it can be.
You're so right. It's like you remember the weather that day. You remember leaving Leo home, going into you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. And, they told us they didn't know anything about it. They'd never even heard of it before. And that's just something that's not fun to hear.
You don't want to hear that. You want to hear, we've got this covered. We've got your back. We may not have all the answers, but we will find out with you.
Yeah. Nope. And they told us pretty much there's nothing. There's nothing you can do. They even told us that. They're like, there's nothing. Most of these kids with this type of this diagnosis do not live very long at all. So come to find out, though, they did not know exactly what they were talking about, thankfully.
I'm not shocked.
Yes, right. Bless their heart. They were going off what they found on the internet. It was a very new diagnosis.
Yeah.
Like this Aicardi-Goutieres Syndrome, or AGS as it's called, was a very new syndrome that had been discovered, I guess you could say. And so there wasn't a lot of information out there, and a lot of it is incorrect. So we actually found a specialist in Philadelphia, and that they worked with kids with AGS. The 5 whole kids that there are. There's more than 5, but it seems like 5. And that's kind of when things changed medically. They were able to give us a little bit of, not false hope, but don't listen to, what that says on Google. This is what we're actually seeing in this. And it's not great. No, it still was not sunshine and daisies for this diagnosis, but it wasn't, your child is not going to live for another year. Come to find out he could live several years.
So did you guys kind of live this almost not bi-coastal, but you Philadelphia isn't close to Oklahoma,
No.
and you both work. And so are you going back and
Yeah.
forth, or how did that all work?
Yes. We still go back and forth quite a bit, but back then we were going back every 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
We were flying to Philadelphia. And yeah, it was expensive. It was hard. We both have very flexible jobs. We're thankful for that. But it took a lot. It took a village on that one. It definitely took a village. But we made it work. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of when things started to change. It's kind of when I got the help that I needed. It wasn't in the way I ever expected. But yeah, our whole lives were kind of changed from that point.
And what way do you think was the biggest change for you?
Yeah. So, I tried different things, of course. I tried medications, antidepressants, working with a therapist. And I think all those things are wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But for me personally, it didn't change anything. And I fell into coaching of all things by listening to a podcast. It was super random, very random. But I discovered this whole world of coaching that I had no idea existed. And it was more concrete what to do now and moving forward, making changes. Therapy was very helpful in healing some of those things. I spoke about, healing about from that anger I had towards being accused of being a drug user, So that was helpful in therapy to kind of heal some of those past traumas. But with coaching, it was all about moving forward. And so I started working with my own coach, and it was the biggest game changer of my life. I mean, I literally, you said it earlier, you said it exactly. I changed my career, my life's work, because I had this huge transformation. I was like, I have to help other moms get this, because this is magic.
Yeah.
I don't know what this magic thing
Yes.
is, but it really addresses the underneath thing of what you're feeling.
It's like,
so, it really,
it just sounds like you hear that, like a calling, like you're called to do, like you were called to do that, to look into that, to become that.
Absolutely was. Absolutely was. And I know that with every fiber in my being, that's what I was meant to do.
It gives me chill bumps, like, just thinking about that point in time that, and I'm sure it didn't happen overnight, but just you finding that and having this beautiful purpose. And not only that for yourself, but what you're doing for other moms too. It's just incredible.
Yeah. And it takes work. It takes work to make change. It's simple work, but it is hard work, what you have to do. And it takes a lot of just taking a look at things and saying, yeah, I do want change. I don't want to feel like this anymore. And I'm willing to do what it takes to get past it.
So once you got the medical care, kind of, you've got a team on board, you feel like you can, maybe breathe a little bit and stop doing so much of the darn research yourself, right? And like let the team handle it so you can be a mom. What became some of your favorite parts of mothering Leo? And what kind of little guy is he? Like what do you love about him?
This is weird, I loved taking him to therapy.
Yeah.
That was our time. It still is our time. That's like my little mom and son date.
I love it.
That's always been one of my favorite things, because, you play with toys. It wasn't in the beginning, because he used to cry the entire time during these sessions, but he kind of got out of that. We got out of that initial irritable phase, and we were starting to see, I think he finally had his first smile. He was about a year old. We saw him smile for the first time. So that was amazing.
Yes.
We never thought we would hear any, like literally just no noises came out of his little mouth. Like no noises, no grunts, nothing except crying. So, when we started to hear little coos and little, gurgles come out of his mouth, I mean, you would think that he had found the cure for cancer. We were so excited and just showing them off. We're like, look, our child is making a noise.
No.
I have so many videos on my phone of Leo just making like small noises. Now he just chats up a storm almost,
Yeah.
It's not.
Oh, that's so
So, but
special.
yeah, he is the cuddliest child though. I mean, we always make the joke that Leo's whole goal in life is to be held by somebody
I love that.
because he will do anything. I mean, that is his love language. He wants that. That's his reward in therapy is if he does good. He gets the therapist to hold and snuggle him, and he just loves it. He just melts into you.
Oh my goodness. It's like he's so smart. He was doing that the whole first 2 years and he succeeded. Like he got y'all to
Yeah,
sleep in
he
shifts.
did.
He was like, this is what I want.
Exactly. Oh no, he knows how to, and now it's funny because he knows how to get his way.
Yeah.
Doesn't use crying necessarily, but he knows how to get his way, and it's
Oh
hilarious
my gosh.
to see the little like smirk on his face whenever he gets it.
Yeah.
He's like, hey.
Oh, I love that. Um, so tell us a little bit about, your business now, how you work with other moms and maybe one of the I think you've given already a lot of great advice, especially in your, perspective from looking back. But how do you work with moms and how would somebody get in touch with you and if they're looking for something, what can you offer?
Yeah. So I work with moms one-on-one in coaching. So it is all virtual via Zoom or over the phone. So anywhere in the country, even actually anywhere in the world, because I have had one international client, which was super fun.
That's really cool. Did they have an
But
accent?
it is.
Oh,
Yes,
I mean that's it.
I know. I love people with accents.
Same.
It's so fun. Whenever I work with moms, we work together in one-on-one sessions via, the phone or through Zoom or however, really just, some form. And it's really about one part realizing that you do need to take care of yourself and figure out ways that you can take care of yourself. And I always say I hate self-care because self-care, that term makes us think of like bubble baths and pedicures and things that feel good in the moment. And I think those things are great. I love bubble baths and pedicures. But self-care really, what really works for your own stress management is actually doing the things that don't feel good. Doing the things that you need rather than want. So whether that's, getting enough sleep or eating the right foods or going, and exercising, just things like that for your body. And so it's kind of one part that, and the other part is realizing where you are creating your own stress in your life and where your own mind is actually kind of getting in your own way. So, we talked about the breastfeeding thing earlier and how we can kind of use that as a tool against ourselves because we have this belief, this limiting belief that is what a good mom does. But whenever we look at it, we don't show up because of that because we're so exhausted from that. You're not showing up as a great mom, as good as you
Right.
could be because you're exhausted. And I'm not saying that, no, don't breastfeed. No, I'm just saying in my situation, something I kind of worked through. To give you an example, was that belief that that's what a good mom does was not serving me in my life. So you have to identify those areas. Where am I creating unnecessary suffering? Where am I creating unnecessary pain? And what is the belief behind that? What is the thought process behind that? So it's kind of digging down to what is the root of the problem? What is driving my actions? What is creating my feelings? And it starts in our brains, right? All of our feelings are driven by a thought. So you have to kind of figure out what those are. You kind of have to work through them and manage them and learn to change your thought processes. Learn to change those beliefs that you have. And that's where I said, the work is simple, but it is hard.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work. And it's something, you work on it every single day. You learn to manage your mind. You learn to manage your emotions and allow them versus resisting them. That's something I always, I was very big on resisting my emotions,
Right.
not realizing that that was a bad thing. So whenever you resist those emotions, they just get stuck inside of you. You don't get to move through them. You're just going to live in them. And it actually adds to chronic stress is unfelt emotions. They just build up in your nervous system in a way. And they keep you stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze response. So, you've got to think about if you're turning to food, I just need to eat some cookies and drink a glass of wine to de-stress. That's how I unwind after a day. Instead of processing that stress, you're just kind of shoving it down and telling your brain, like, oh, this will make us feel better.
And it almost never does.
In the long term, it does not. Nope, it does not. It does not, unfortunately.
As you're chatting and just talking a little bit about that, like that self, that inner voice that gets in our way, so this is ridiculous. Like now that I'm saying out loud and just talking about breastfeeding, but my first son, I left the field of child life to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's what I was going to do. And because I was going to do that, I was going to do it really freaking well, because that's just how I have to do it. And for some reason in my head, those pumping bras that you can like put your pump in so you don't have to hold. So in my head, I was not allowed to have a pumping bra because that was like me putting my energy elsewhere. Like it doesn't even make sense. But like I did not allow myself to use a pumping bra because I was like, this is my job. I will have to hold this. And like, by kid number 2, I'm a lot smarter. It did not do that. But no one ever told me that. That was something I made up on my own because of my interpretation of what a good mom should do.
Yes. Absolutely. It's so common that we just give this definition to what we think a good mom does or should do. And it's a lot of things come into factor that creates that belief, and that doesn't really matter where it comes from, but it's more about, but does it really help us be a good mom? That belief? Sometimes not. Usually not.
Well, are you taking more clients now, and how can listeners follow along with you and maybe seek out your services?
Yeah, so I am. We do 3-month sessions. So the next group starts actually coming up here pretty soon, but there's always, a new group starting. And I say group just because that's kind of how it's structured. All the sessions are one-on-one, of course. But they can either, LowryLifeCoaching.com. It's LOWERY, lifecoaching.com, or follow along on Instagram. It's kind of where I hang out the most and share a lot of my resources and things like that on Instagram. And for that, I don't know if you want to put in show notes or what, but it's Lauren _Nia, NIA _Lowry. And that's on Instagram, and I've got a podcast. It's linked on there as well, Overcome the Overwhelm. So yeah, all kinds of ways. I'm all over the place. I love it.
Well, I have one last question for you, and that is if you can think about something that Leo has taught you about yourself that you're really proud of and that was maybe a little bit transformative. What have you learned about yourself through him?
Leo has taught me that life is not in the future. Life is not necessarily in the past. It's just in today. We just have to focus on what we have right in front of us. And that doesn't mean just trying to survive through the day, but it's really just focusing on what is literally right here, right now. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. And maybe the past wasn't what we wanted it to be. But, if you look for the good right now, you'll live a happier life. And I think that's something that's really been very helpful and has really just made me a happier person, is just focusing on the small things. I think we kind of sometimes get a brain fog in front of us, and we're we're so busy. Work and emails and text messages and social media and, cleaning the house, doing the laundry, like all of those things, we kind of just forget why we're even living. What's the whole point? It's for each other. It's for love. It's to just, to just find that joy. I think the joy is something you kind of have to be intentional about finding. And Leo he does that, he's very quiet usually, and he can you just see him kind of looking around, just smiling, and he loves the small, simple things of life, like swinging outside. He loves to be outside. He loves music. Just the simple things of life make him so happy.
I love that.
Yeah, that's what I've learned.
It's just amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing I know sometimes hard to share vulnerable things that you've been through, but you have given so much guidance and wisdom just by being who you are. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Child Life On Call podcast. I'm your host, Katie Taylor, and you can follow us at Child Life On Call on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please rate and review to make it easier for other families to find us. We have cute merch available at www.bonfire.com/store/childlifeoncall, and you can listen to more episodes and find resources at childlifepodcast.com.